Picture this: your once lush veggie patch fading under the cold, the frost slowly creeping in, and the garden you've cared for all year suddenly fighting for life. But here's the good news: winter doesn't have to win. What if these colder months could actually strengthen your garden instead of destroy it? From November to March, there are 7 simple, time-tested fixes that keep your soil alive, your roots protected, and your plants ready to bounce back strong in spring. No expensive tools, no complicated science, just old-fashioned wisdom and practical steps that every seasoned gardener can trust. Stay with me, and let's stop winter kill before it even begins. Fix number 1: deep water and mulch before the freeze. As November creeps in, the air gets crisp, and the days grow shorter. Many gardeners breathe a sigh of relief. The season's harvest is over. The tools are hung up, and it's time to rest. But here's the quiet truth every experienced hand in the soil knows: winter isn't a time to stop caring for your garden. It's the moment to protect what you've built. One of the most overlooked steps before the freeze is deep watering. It sounds simple, even ordinary, but it's the difference between roots that endure and roots that perish. When soil dries out before winter, it leaves tiny air pockets around the roots. Then, when the temperature plunges, those air pockets trap cold, allowing frost to reach deep and damage root tissues. Think of it like leaving a blanket off your plants on the coldest night of the year. A thorough soak in late fall changes everything. Moist soil holds heat far better than dry soil. It acts like a natural insulator. According to the Missouri Botanical Garden, trees and shrubs should be watered until the ground actually freezes. That moisture becomes their winter shield, giving them a reserve of life through the months when everything else looks asleep. Here's how to do it right. Pick a mild day before the hard freeze sets in. The ground should still be soft enough to absorb water. Soak deeply, not a quick sprinkle, but a long, slow watering that reaches 8 to 12 inches down. Use a soaker hose or let your hose trickle slowly around the root zones of trees, perennials, and vegetable beds. Once the soil is thoroughly wet, lock in that warmth with a generous 2 to 3 inch layer of mulch. You can use straw, shredded leaves, compost, or even pine needles. The goal is to cover the root zone, not smother the crown of the plants. That mulch does double duty. It holds the heat and moisture in the soil and shields the roots from sharp temperature swings, especially during those unpredictable winter thaws and freezes. It's like tucking your garden in with a warm, breathable quilt before bed. And here's the beauty of it: this one simple act, watering deeply and mulching, can save years of effort. It means that the lilac you planted for your grandkids, the raspberry patch you've tended with care, or the raised beds you've poured love into won't have to start over in spring. Instead, they'll wake up ready, their roots strong and hydrated, already one step ahead of the cold. For seniors who've spent decades reading the rhythm of the seasons, this is more than a gardening trick. It's an act of stewardship. It's honoring the quiet months, understanding that life doesn't stop when the frost comes. It simply slows down to gather strength. Fix number 2: clear, clean, and carve out the winter bed. As autumn's final leaves drift to the ground, your garden begins its slow exhale, a sigh of rest after months of giving. The tomatoes that once blushed red have withered. The beans hang limp and dry. The perennials stand tall but brittle, like proud soldiers at ease. For many gardeners, this stage brings a bittersweet pause, a sense that the season is ending. But before winter wraps its arms around your yard, there's one powerful act that can set the stage for a healthier, more vibrant spring: clearing and cleaning your beds. Here's the truth: those old vines, fallen leaves, and dried stems might look harmless, even cozy, but they're often winter's hiding place for next year's trouble. Aphid eggs tucked under leaf piles, fungal spores resting on old stems, and disease lingering in rotted fruit. They all bide their time in the cold, waiting for warmth to return. If left unchecked, they'll awaken in spring before your seedlings even get their start. That's why November through early December is your garden's deep clean moment, not to erase what was, but to prepare what will be. Think of it as tucking your garden in, not messy and cluttered, but calm, clean, and ready to dream. Here's how to do it with care and purpose. Walk your garden slowly. Notice what's still standing strong and what's spent. Some plants, like ornamental grasses or seed-heavy sunflowers, can be left as wildlife habitat through winter. They feed birds and add beauty to the frost. Others, like mildewed squash vines or blighted tomato plants, need to go. Uproot them gently and discard them away from compost if they show signs of disease. Cut back frost-dead perennials. Leave about 2 to 3 inches above the ground. This protects the crown from sudden freezes and keeps the area neat while still allowing snow cover to act as insulation. Rake and remove debris. Fallen leaves are wonderful when shredded into mulch, but when they mat down in thick, wet layers, they trap moisture and suffocate the soil. Clear pathways and bed surfaces so air can flow freely. Edge and define your beds. Take a small spade and carve crisp outlines along your borders. It not only looks satisfying, but prevents grass and weeds from creeping in come spring. This small step makes your garden feel intentional, even in its rest. When you finish, step back and take a moment to see your garden. Clean lines, quiet soil, open air. What was once a tangle of vines and decay now looks like a blank page waiting to be written on. There's something deeply renewing about that. The act of clearing away the old, honoring what's run its course, and making space for what's next. For seniors who've gardened for decades, this ritual isn't just about maintenance. It's about gratitude. Each plant tells a story. The tomato that gave you the sweetest fruit, the marigolds that fought off pests, the basil you shared with neighbors. Fix number 3. Start seeds and plan early for spring. Winter has a way of slowing everything down. The world goes quiet. The soil hardens, and even the most devoted gardeners find their hands idle. The beds lie bare under frost, and the days feel shorter than ever. It's easy to think there's nothing left to do but wait. But here's the secret season gardeners know well. Winter is not the end of your gardening year. It's the beginning of the next one. From November through March, nature may rest, but the gardener's heart keeps beating. These cold months are your secret window, the perfect time to start seeds, make plans, and quietly shape the harvest that's coming. Every minute you invest now pays back in weeks of head start when the warmth returns. Let's start with seeds, those tiny miracles of potential. Even in the chill of winter, you can nurture life indoors. Cold-tolerant crops like kale, spinach, lettuce, onions, and broccoli love an early start. A sunny windowsill, a few seed trays, and the patience of winter evenings are all you need. The soft glow of grow lights on your countertop can feel like a promise that spring will return. If you're lucky enough to have a cold frame or small greenhouse, this is the season to bring it alive. Sow hardy greens or early peas, and watch them sprout while snow still touches the ground. It's a wonderful reminder that growth doesn't stop, it just changes pace. But beyond seed trays, winter is your thinking season. The soil may be frozen, but your imagination is fertile. Pull out a notebook and sketch your next garden layout. Where did your tomatoes thrive last year? Which beds felt crowded? Where could you add pollinator-friendly blooms? Grab a cup of tea, spread out your seed catalogs, and let yourself dream a little. Picture colors, shapes, and scents. Read, research, and discover new heirloom varieties or native plants that fit your growing zone. You might even find joy in reorganizing your tools or labeling your seed packets. Quiet acts that make you feel connected to the life you're cultivating. And if winter days ever start to feel long or lonely, remember this: every gardener throughout history has walked this same rhythm, watching, waiting, preparing. Your grandparents did it. Their parents did, too. There's something timeless in the act of caring for future growth. Before it's visible, it's hope in its purest form. So instead of seeing winter as a pause, see it as preparation. Start those seeds. Sketch your dream layout. Jot down your lessons from last year. What worked? What didn't? What you'll try again differently. When March rolls around, you won't be scrambling to catch up. You'll already be ahead, ready to welcome the first warm breeze with seedlings eager to meet the sun. This quiet work, done when the world is asleep, is what sets thriving gardeners apart. Fix number 4. Use winter-friendly crops and extend the season. For most gardeners, the first frost feels like a curtain call. The moment when we hang up our gloves and wait for spring. The beds turn still, the vines blacken, and we whisper, "See you next year." But what if that wasn't the end at all? What if winter could still offer fresh greens, crisp roots, and a quiet kind of harvest? One sweeter than any summer crop? That's the gift of winter-friendly gardening. The cold doesn't have to be your enemy. It can be your ally. In fact, Some of the best tasting vegetables are born in the chill. When frost kisses the leaves of kale, spinach, or carrots, something magical happens. The plants respond by producing natural sugars to protect themselves. That's why winter carrots taste like candy, and kale becomes tender enough to eat straight from the garden. So instead of surrendering your soil to the cold, let's extend the season. Start by choosing hardy, cold-tolerant crops, the true winter warriors of the garden. Kale and collards that shrug off snow like it's nothing. Spinach, Asian greens like bok choy and mizuna, and lettuce mixes that thrive in the crisp air. Root crops like carrots, parsnips, and turnips that actually improve in flavor after frost. These plants don't need much, just a little protection, a little care, and a gardener who refuses to give up when the mercury drops. Here's how you can help them thrive. Use cold frames or mini hoop houses. A simple frame made from old windows or a plastic cover over hoops traps daytime warmth and shields plants from biting winds. Lay down row covers. Lightweight fabric lets in sunlight and rain but keeps frost at bay, giving your greens an extra 5 to 10 degrees of protection. Mulch thickly around root crops, about 4 inches deep, to insulate them so you can harvest all winter long, even when the ground is frozen solid elsewhere. Imagine walking outside in January, pushing aside a dusting of snow, and pulling up a bunch of bright orange carrots, or cutting a handful of spinach for your morning omelet, while your neighbors think the growing season's long gone. That's not just productivity, that's joy. Winter gardening connects you to something deeper. It reminds you that life never truly stops, even in the coldest months. The earth keeps breathing beneath the frost, and so can your garden. For seniors who've tended the soil through decades, it's a quiet reassurance. You don't have to rush, and you don't have to quit. There's beauty in growing slow, steady, and strong, just like winter itself. So this season, try one small experiment. Maybe it's a single bed of kale, under a row cover or a patch of carrots tucked in with straw. Watch how they endure, how they sweeten, how they whisper that the garden's spirit never really sleeps. Fix number 5. Protect tools, hoses, and infrastructure. When winter rolls in, most of us think about saving our plants. But what about the tools that help us tend them? The quiet truth is, frozen hoses, rusted trowels, and cracked raised beds can do more damage to your spring garden than a late frost ever could. They're the silent casualties of winter neglect, and come April, they're often the reason we sigh. I wish I'd taken care of that last fall. The good news? A single afternoon of care in November can save hours of frustration later and keep your gardening companions, because let's face it, they are companions in top shape for years to come. Let's start with the most vulnerable, hoses. Water left inside them expands when it freezes, splitting seams and bursting connectors. Before the hard frost hits, disconnect every hose, drain it completely, and coil it loosely in a shed or garage. The same goes for your watering cans and drip irrigation lines. Empty and cover them so they don't become winter's first victims. Next, turn your attention to your tools, the unsung heroes of your garden story. That old spade that's turned soil for decades. The pruning shears that shaped your roses. The hand trowel that's worn smooth from use. They deserve a little love before their long rest. Here's your winter care checklist. Clean off soil and sap. A quick scrub with warm water and a wire brush prevents rust and rot. Dry thoroughly. Moisture left behind is the enemy. Oil metal parts and wooden handles. A light coat of mineral oil or linseed oil protects metal from rust and keeps wooden handles from cracking. Sharpen blades. Whether it's shears, spades, or hose, sharp tools make spring work easier and safer. Hang or store properly. Keep tools off the ground where moisture collects. Hooks or a simple pegboard work wonders. Don't forget your raised beds and garden structures. Cold and moisture can make untreated wood split or rot. Tighten screws, patch cracks, and if you can, give the wood a protective coat of natural oil or sealant before snow arrives. For metal frames or trellises, check for rust and touch up with a rust-resistant finish. Even simple repairs now can add years of life later. Think of it this way. Just as your garden needs rest and protection through winter, so do the things that serve it. These are the quiet guardians of your growing seasons. Each one tells a story. The hose that's watered generations of flowers. The rake that's cleared countless leaves. The trowel passed down from a parent or friend. Taking time to care for them isn't just maintenance, it's respect. So before you close the shed door this season, take one last look around. Give your tools a quick wipe, your hoses a final drain, and your beds a small repair. Then hang everything neatly, knowing that when the first warm breeze of spring arrives, you'll be ready. Fix number 6. Insulate pots, containers, and tender plants. When the wind turns sharp and frost glitters on the window panes, the plants in your garden bed settle in, their roots deep in the earth's warmth. But your container plants, those loyal geraniums, potted herbs, or patio perennials, face a much tougher battle. Unlike in-ground roots protected by the surrounding soil, container plants live with their roots just inches away from freezing air. One hard frost, one bitter wind, and that beloved potted rose or rosemary can be lost overnight. But here's the good news. A little preparation now can mean a thriving, green comeback in spring. The key word here is insulation, protecting your pots, containers, and tender plants from temperature extremes that they can't fend off on their own. Think of it like wrapping your garden's most fragile members in a warm winter coat. Start with location. Move containers close to the house, where walls radiate a bit of heat and the wind is less fierce. North-facing walls stay cold, but south or west-facing areas can give your plants those few extra degrees. That make all the difference. If possible, group pots together. Plants help insulate one another, and a little huddle can protect against harsh wind. Next, tackle the containers themselves. Clay and ceramic pots can crack when moisture inside expands as it freezes. Wrap them in layers of burlap, old blankets, or even bubble wrap. Place pots on boards or bricks to keep them off the freezing ground, where water can accumulate and turn to ice. For tender plants, like small shrubs, herbs, or young perennials, extra protection can be life-saving. Wrap the plant loosely in burlap or frost cloth, securing it with twine. Avoid using plastic directly against leaves. It traps moisture and can cause rot. For especially delicate shrubs, create a small frame with stakes around the plant and drape frost cloth over it, like a mini tent. And don't forget the simplest protector of all, mulch. Spread a generous layer, 2 to 4 inches, of straw, shredded leaves, or compost over the soil surface, even around potted plants. This acts as a natural blanket, keeping the soil temperature stable and the roots cozy. If space allows, consider giving your most vulnerable container plants a temporary home indoors. A bright window, sunroom, or even a cool basement with a grow light can be a safe haven for herbs, succulents, or tropicals that wouldn't survive the frost. It's a small act of kindness that rewards you with living color all winter long. For many senior gardeners, these plants aren't just decorations, they're companions. Maybe it's the fern that sat by your porch for years, or the rosemary you trim every Christmas for the roast. Moving them, wrapping them, and tucking them in for winter isn't just care, it's connection. It's knowing that what's tender still deserves to thrive. Fix number 7. Keep your spirit alive. Walk, count, note, and enjoy the quiet season. Winter can feel like the garden's long silence. No humming bees, no bursts of color, just the quiet hum of wind through bare branches. For many lifelong gardeners, this stillness can feel like loss. The beds lie empty, the tools are stored, and the daily rhythm of tending the soil slows to a pause. But beneath that quiet is something powerful, renewal. This season isn't a void, it's an invitation. Winter asks you not to stop gardening, but to garden differently, to tend your spirit, your memories, and your dreams for what comes next. Here's how you keep that spark alive when the world outside looks asleep. Start by taking a weekly garden walk. Bundle up, step outside, and just walk the paths you once weeded in summer. You'll notice more than you expect: the shape of sleeping perennials, the rustle of dried seed heads, the pattern of frost on the mulch. These small details remind you that life is still present, just resting under the surface. Every gardener needs to see that to believe it. Carry a small notebook or journal. Use it to jot down what you notice: which plants survive the frost, which spots drain too slowly, which ideas you'd like to try when spring returns. This kind of reflection turns experience into wisdom, the kind you can pass down or build on year after year. Make winter your thinking season. Pull out old seed catalogs or browse new ones online. Circle the varieties you've always wanted to try. Dream a little about colors, layouts, and textures. Planting isn't busy work. It's a quiet form of hope. It keeps your hands idle, but your imagination busy. And that's what keeps a gardener's heart beating through the cold. Don't forget to notice the life that stays. Winter birds flitting through bare trees. The tracks of rabbits or deer in the snow. The way the low sun turns the garden golden at dusk. These are gifts of the off-season. Hang a feeder, scatter some seed, and let the garden continue its conversation with you, even without blooms. Most importantly, give yourself permission to rest. The garden is not dead, it's simply gathering strength. You're part of that same rhythm. Let the quiet teach you patience, perspective, and gratitude. For seniors who've spent decades coaxing life from the soil, winter becomes less about waiting and more about remembering, about savoring what's been planted, harvested, and shared. So this season, don't retreat from your garden, walk with it. Let each visit remind you that every cycle, even the coldest, carries purpose. Come spring, you'll return with renewed joy, deeper wisdom, and a heart as ready as the soil to begin again. So there you have it, 7 simple, time-tested fixes to stop winter kill in its tracks and keep your garden strong from November straight through to March. Each one is a quiet promise that your garden doesn't have to fade with the frost. It can endure, even thrive, when you care for it with intention. Remember this truth: the garden may sleep, but it never dies. Beneath the frozen soil, life is still stirring, roots breathing slowly, seeds waiting patiently, earth gathering warmth for spring. And in that same way, every gardener carries their own season of rest and renewal. These winter months aren't a pause. They're part of the rhythm. They're when wisdom takes root and experience deepens. Maybe this year, you'll walk your garden with new eyes, noticing the small miracles that still unfold in the cold. The glint of frost on a fence post, the sweet crunch of a winter carrot, the quiet company of a robin hopping along the path. It's all still there. The beauty, the growth, the hope. So as you put these 7 fixes into practice, watering deeply, clearing beds, planting early, extending the season, protecting tools, wrapping tender plants, and keeping your spirit alive, know that you're doing more than gardening. You're nurturing a legacy. You're showing that resilience doesn't end when the season does. And if you found something here that encouraged or inspired you, something that made you think of your own garden or brought back a memory of your first spring bloom, take a moment to let us know. Click like, hit subscribe, and tap that bell icon so you don't miss our next Evergreen Seniors gardening tip. We post practical, heartwarming advice for gardeners who still love getting their hands in the soil and finding purpose in every season. And if you have a friend, neighbor, or family member who loves the garden as much as you do, share this video with them. Because gardening wisdom, like seeds, grows best when it's shared. Until next time, from the Evergreen Seniors, keep tending hope, even under the snow, because every quiet winter holds the promise of another spring.